Good Sunday morning. I'm Paul Lisnek. Coming up on WGN-TV Political Report.
We're going to remain a welcoming city and hold to our values.
Mayor Brandon Johnson heading to Capitol Hill this week. How tough questions in Washington could impact Chicago. Plus,
the reality is people don't trust this mayor. They don't trust any of the decisions he's making.
a controversial borrowing plan gets the green light at City Hall, but the fallout could further fracture relationships with the mayor. And later, how uncertainty in Washington could impact an already tight budget year for Illinois, what Governor Pritzker's team is saying as the spring session gets underway at the state capitol. But we begin this morning in Washington, where Mayor Brandon Johnson will find himself facing tough questions from members of Congress this week. Johnson slated to testify in front of the Republican-led House Oversight Committee, along with his counterparts from Boston, Denver, and New York. Mayor Johnson giving some insight into how he's preparing and what he might say.
We're going to hold to our values, and whether or not we can, get our message across in that particular room doesn't mean that I'm going to stop delivering the message of hope. And March 5th or any other day, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up for the people of Chicago as I've always done. And I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but I will certainly say that when I get there, who I am is who I will remain.
The testimony comes as Trump's DOJ sues leaders in the city, state, and Cook County over immigration laws here. Chicago's Welcoming City Ordinance works in tandem with Illinois' Trust Act, first signed into law by Republican Governor Bruce Rauner. The laws prevent state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal deportation authorities, but allows coordination when a criminal warrant is issued. Elsewhere on Capitol Hill, Republican lawmakers are scrambling to come to a final budget deal. The House narrowly approved a blueprint last week that includes $4.5 trillion in tax breaks and $2 trillion in spending cuts. Democrats say the bill does nothing to help average Americans and will likely take more money out of their pockets. And they're sounding the alarm on possible cuts to Medicaid. Even as Speaker Mike Johnson says that's not going to happen. Well, it's now in the hands of the Senate as President Trump is set to address a joint session of Congress on Tuesday evening. Congressman Jonathan Jackson, a Democrat representing Illinois' 1st District, joins me this Sunday morning to talk more about the week ahead. Congressman, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Hey, Paul, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
So, as I said, Mayor Johnson on his way to Chicago to testify. It's our understanding that he reached out to you, perhaps for some advice about testifying. So, can you fill us in? What did you talk about and what did you advise him?
Well, I applaud him for making sure that persons that came up here were treated in a humane fashion. It remains up to the citizens of Chicago on whether or not they choose to have the sanctuary city status to remain. I think that should be voted upon. But what he should say, and I would strongly recommend, is to get the narrative story out there that he's done extremely well. For example, there were drivers that came from Texas with buses that did not have a driver's license. They had children that were unaccompanied by an adult. These children were trafficked across state lines. That's against the law. And there was no pushback by the Attorney General's office to stop that sort of practice. So Chicago did not leave people on the streets, did not become a portal to children becoming sex workers. That's the entryway when you start moving that many homeless children around. So I think that it was a major tense issue, and these were targeted. Let's put it in perspective. This was Operation Lone Star State that was created by Governor Greg Abbott to send persons that were in the margins that needed sanctuary into democratically led cities. They were dealt with in a humane fashion, but it started with Governor Abbott in Texas. And we need to go back to the source, not just talk about where they are on the streets here in Chicago.
Well, I understand, Congressman, but of course, as you know, the mayor will be testifying under oath and the city is facing a lawsuit from DOJ. Did you advise him at all about being careful about what he says, given the fact that he's under oath and it can be used against him in the lawsuit somewhere?
He's a consummate professional. He knows what he's doing. I just shared the concerns that I've had. I had sent letters into Department of Justice as well as to Homeland Security and to Health and Human Services when this first came out. And I said, Governor Greg Abbott is breaking the law. You cannot send unaccompanied minors without an adult across state lines. And that's what happened. There are children in our schools right now that don't have their parent. They've been separated. People have come from some extraordinary measures. So that's all that I shared with him. And I was free to give any other counsel or my perspective on what he could expect.
Fair enough. I do want to ask you about the meeting on Friday in the Oval Office between President Zelensky of Ukraine and President Trump, Vice President Vance. Others were there. But as you know, very contentious, pretty shocking and pretty historic in terms of the relationship that occurred there. My question to you is, the president's going to be speaking on Tuesday night to a joint session of Congress. How do you expect him to address that, assuming he does? And what do you expect Democrats to do in response to the president's comments on that issue when we hear it Tuesday night?
Well, number one, I thought Vice President Vance was most undignified. This was kind of a frickin' frack moment. This was pre-staged, orchestrated. Mr. Vance came there as an attack dog, started raising his voice, and then the president started playing off of it. Usually when you have these meetings, there's the charge d'affaires, there's the ambassador, there's all this back talk that goes, and channels are clear. They had a luncheon set up afterwards. They also had a signing ceremony set up. But this was to humiliate President Zelensky. And so this has been a whiplash. It's been a radical change in our previous foreign policy after we've invested $170 billion to help the Ukrainians fight their war. That was very dignified. That was very honorable. Mr. Zelensky has upheld his end of the bargain, but I don't know the backstory, and I want to get back to you with it on why they started attacking. And then it was also a little bit beneath, I think, the United States to say, hey, we've given you something, other people lent you something. We want $500 billion of your natural resources. I mean, surely there's something to be done, but to feel as if it felt like it was a threatening environment in the Oval Office with finger pointing, I don't think you ever go forward trying to humiliate someone. This seemed like it was staged to humiliate.
I appreciate that. Let me also ask you, as you know, the Trump administration is already owing Illinois about $2 billion in funds here. The Illinois delegation, the mayor, the governor met with the press on Friday to talk about this. What are your thoughts on protecting the funding? Because more cuts are promised to come from the administration, certainly even related to our disagreements on the issue of migrants.
Well, I think I'm highly confident things will work out. Mr. Trump is also focused on a blue state strategy, knowing that we have trigger laws on our books for Medicaid. He's crafting laws to hurt blue states. Even when he attacks DEI, he wants to make sure that corporations bow to his will. He's taken the freedom of expression. He's taken people's freedom of words and assembly out of their mouth, saying you cannot have an aspirational program to focus on diversity, to focus on equality and equal opportunities, not equal outcomes, but equal opportunities. And inclusion. Inclusion covers a very broad area for people that need a wheelchair, that are differently able. So he is trying to be a bully across the world stage. And I'm telling you, that's not going to end very well, because people have self-respect, people have dignity, and you should not try to trample on that. What's going to happen is he's going to start forcing people into some new relationship. Yeah. Look at what's happening in Panama. He's going to make China more desirable to be a partner with the Panamanians than the Americans. I like to go forward with the olive branch, not with the war stick.
All right, Congressman, less than 30 seconds, but I just want to get one take from you. You had a town hall on Thursday night. We're seeing a lot in the media about Republican town halls, and people are angry. And what did you face in your town hall?
It was telephone. It was 13,000 people that tuned in. I've done 2 on Thursday. I'll do another one this upcoming Thursday. People are concerned about Elon Musk having his hands on their data. They're concerned about Elon Musk going into the Social Security, and they want to make sure that their Medicaid benefits are not cut. They don't know how they're going to have medical services.
All right. Thank you, Congressman. We'll touch base with you again soon. I appreciate your time. Have a good Sunday.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. We're going to take our first break. Coming up next on WGN-TV Political Report, we're going to City Hall.
This idea that we're in a real hurry and we got to get this done today or else is absolute and total baloney.
Some of our communities have been waiting for a long time.
The contentious debate over Mayor Brandon Johnson's borrowing plan. What's next at City Hall? I'll be with 43rd Ward Alderman Timmy Knutson after the break. Stay with us.